Hey, I'm Brian.
Hey, I'm Stephanie, and since Boldly BVI is growing, we want to introduce you to our new Boldly BVI Spotlight series.
Wait, so this isn't a regular episode?
No, it's an in-depth look at a specific pioneer who's boldly leading the charge to uplift and support those with blindness or visual impairments.
So, let's learn more about how they're empowering the community to live their best, bold, blind, and visually impaired life.
So here we are with another spotlight in our spotlight series for Boldly BVI. And this time we're going to learn a little bit about those individuals who help students with blindness and visual impairments in the classroom. But I don't want to be the one to talk about it. So I want to introduce our guest, Miss Amy, who is with us, who's going to help us understand what she does in the role of students with blindness and visual impairments. So welcome, Amy. Can you introduce yourself to our guest and explain what is your role and what does that mean when it comes to students with blindness and visual impairments?
Yes. So I have been working in the school system. This is my 19th year in education, but this is my 6th year working as a TVI. So TVI stands for Teacher of the Visually Impaired. What that entails is I work with students in the education, preschool, all the way until they're 21 years old for any individual who is blind or has a visual impairment. The job that I hold is not to teach them the academic curriculum, but it's to be able to provide them with access to that curriculum.
So you mentioned that you've been in this role for 6 years as a teacher of the visually impaired, but teaching for 19 years. So can you kind of explain how this role as a TVI differs from your other types of roles as a teacher?
So, being a TVI, it is part of the special education teachers. So, you do have to go to school to get that teaching certificate under the special education. But this is a special certificate to work with students who are blind and visually impaired. Previous to that, I worked with students with all different types of impairments, but this one specializes with students who are blind and visually impaired. So I got into this role. You went back, got my master's, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the students, and I love the wide ranges of abilities that I get to work with.
So you're not just a teacher, but you've got these special credentials to help you with this type of population itself. Also mention the fact that you're not the general education teacher. So what types of subject matters are you as a teacher of visually impaired teaching?
I am not teaching them the regular education curriculum. I work side by side with the teachers a lot of the time, teaching my students how to access. So, that part of my curriculum is called the Expanded Core Curriculum, or sometimes you might see it as ECC. And then that goes over 9 different areas that I can work on with the student, ranging from assistive technology, career education, compensatory skills, independent living skills, recreation and leisure, self determination, sensory efficiency, social interaction skills. And then students can receive additional services on top of that if warranted for them also to receive orientation and mobility.
Wow. Okay. So these are skills that we're not getting in general education classrooms, but we've identified that students with blindness and visual impairments need to work on, right? And you mentioned the wide range of ages that a TVI could work in. Can you talk about some of those age groups and how that role as a teacher of the visually impaired might change as a student moves through the system?
I feel very blessed that I try to see students once they initially qualify, that I get them at a young age, and I hope to continue move on with them from their preschool years all the way up through graduation. So what that looks like is they could come in through child find, where they are found in the system as having a disability that may warrant some services, or they come in. Sometimes it could just be that teachers recognize that they are having difficulty seeing the materials, they're getting close to the materials, they're squinting, needing to get closer to the board. And the teachers can put out a referral to me that just kind of says, hey, we have some vision concerns. What are some strategies we can do in order to help our student? And then we kind of get the ball moving from there to a referral process if necessary. We work along with the parents to see if there is an outside diagnosis, if they went to either an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, that they have already have a visual diagnosis listed. And then we all work together as a team and try to figure out what is best to help this student. If we do decide to move forward with a referral, what's involved in that is doing a FVLMA, which is called a Functional Vision Learning Media Assessment. And that's where I am assessing their functional visual skills, as well as looking at what is their reading, learning media style that's going to help them be able to access that curriculum and in a manner that's commensurate with their similar age peers who do not have a visual impairment. So we look at those. We also do behavior observations, parent interviews, student interviews, teacher interviews, and then we gather all of that information together to determine what is best for this student. Does this student qualify needing specially designed instruction from a TVI, someone like myself? Or is it that for the most part, they are functioning appropriately, but maybe they just need some accommodations in the classroom, such as getting that preferential seating, being allowed to have a slant board, something that can bring materials up closer to them, providing them with extended time on their tests because it may take them a little bit longer. So we take all of that information to determine what is going to be most appropriate for this child in providing them with access to the curriculum.
So one of the terms that we hear in the educational setting when it comes to TVIs and these services that are required for students with blindness and visual impairment is this IEP. What does IEP stand for and what is it?
So an IEP stands for the Individualized Education Plan that is specific to your child. What that means is that after we move forward with an evaluation and determine that this student needs specially designed instruction, IEP is part of special education. That just means that the child or student needs additional assistance from a special education teacher. In our field, it would be from a teacher of the visually impaired to provide them with access. Along that IEP, we discuss what are the present levels that the child is currently working at, what are their strengths, what are some areas of concern that we would like to address. Then we kind of come up with some goals. What are we going to do within that next year that's going to help this child succeed in the classroom? We provide what our direct service minutes would look like. So if am I seeing the student in a pull out setting to give them that direct instruction? Am I sitting with them in their classroom and collaborating with the teacher on teaching them these new strategies? And then how often is it happening? And then additionally, we discuss what are some of those accommodations and modifications that we're making in order for that child to be able to access the curriculum as well. Are they receiving that extended time? Do they need materials that we would be providing to them in order for them to help them maximize their visual support?
And so, as a teacher of visually impaired, when I go into the school, am I going to find a TVI at every school?
That's a great question. So, visual impairments are considered to be low incidence, which means that you do not have as many students in each school building that have a visual impairment compared to other students who may have an intellectual impairment. Therefore, you probably would not have a teacher of the visually impaired in every school all day long. I am considered to be an itinerant teacher. I currently travel to 6 different schools within my county, working with students. And just based on their needs, I can work with students up to an hour and a half straight. I have some students who need minimal support and they're only being seen 20 minutes for one day. So again, the IEP is really specialized on what does that child need, and we provide those services to them. And we have to take into consideration the least restrictive environment that we're trying to keep them in with their peers as much as we can.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what has been some of your favorite moments as a teacher of the visually impaired?
I have a lot. Um, so I will have to say that I just love working with these students and seeing them grow. Uh, as I said earlier, prior to working with students with visual impairments, I worked in a different field in education, and I worked mainly in the elementary school. And when I jumped into this profession, I thought, man, I don't know how I'm going to feel working with middle schoolers and high schoolers. But I'll tell you what, I have really enjoyed it. I have a student that some of her goals is that she's trying to learn how to independently navigate throughout her community, use her assistive technology tools to help her do grocery shopping. Going out there, she's learning how to do some cooking. And it's just so fun because it's not your typical, it's not the typical routine that you would think when it comes to education. We're trying to give them those lifetime experiences. So then once they are post graduation, they have these skills under their belt and they can be independent.
All right. Last question. So, what do you think that maybe you didn't already touch on that we need to know to come into full understanding about who a TVI is or what they're doing? Any last thoughts you have for us?
I would just say that if you are a parent of a child who has any form of visual diagnosis, please reach out to your school system. The amount of times that I've heard teachers or sometimes even parents, just because they aren't aware that there is such thing as a TVI and that the student can get support, that they say, well, they have glasses. This is as good as it's going to get. So I urge, teachers and parents that if you have concerns, reach out to your district, figure out who is there, who can help, because I can guarantee that most of the school districts have someone out there to help support this child.
Thanks for tuning in to watch our Bowley BVI Spotlight series.
And make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend.
And until next time, continue to live your best, bold, blind, and visually impaired life.